Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna do my June reading wrap-up. In June I got to 6 books and I liked most of them. There were a couple that were just kind of okay, but I mostly had a good reading month. The first book I read was Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I have a hard time with his last name. So if you haven't heard of this book series, it's about Carl, who is outside trying to wrangle his ex-girlfriend's cat when the end of the world happens, when aliens come to the planet and like crush all the buildings, and you have the opportunity to either try to fight for survival on the outside or enter the dungeon. And so Carl and the cat Princess Donut enter the dungeon, where they basically enter like kind of a video game, and it's kind of like D&D-ish too, where they were supposed to try to survive 18 levels in the dungeon and then they get freedom, but like nobody's completed all 18 levels, so this is their journey through the first couple levels. And Princess Donut becomes not just a regular cat but an actual like player character where she talks, and she's really funny. I rated this book 4 stars. It caused some mixed emotions because parts of it's really sad because you're doing with the end of the world and stuff, and there's just some sad parts of it, but a lot of it had me laughing, and I am absolutely obsessed with Princess Donut and cannot wait to find out what happens to her and Carl in book 2. So yeah, that's Dungeon Crawler Carl. After that, I read This Spells Love, which is about Gemma, who had a bad breakup with her boyfriend of like so many years, and so when she's at her aunt's bookshop, there's like a book that like, oh, it's supposed to be like magic and can like undo like time and stuff, and so like she like kind of like wishes that like, oh, she never met her ex-boyfriend, but when she does that, she goes to a world where she never met him. It's an alternate timeline, but she also met her best friend Dax on that night, and so she and Dax never met, and so it's kind of a friends to lovers about Dax and Gemma in that alternate timeline that she has to like try to fix, that oh, they can become friends, and then something more kind of happens. Based on the title, I thought this was a witchy romance, so I was kind of, well, I wasn't kind of, I was very disappointed that it was kind of more magical realism and not what I wanted, and I think that kind of gave me the like ick and stuff. Not ick, but like I didn't like it and was kind of bored by it, and just gave it 3 stars. I think if you come in with the right expectations, you might like it more, but I was just bored by it because like the romance wasn't that exciting. I didn't really connect with any of the characters and stuff. After that, I read The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, which is about a diviner. She's from a group of 6 diviners that they dream about people's futures when they like go into like drown in a pond, and the other 5 diviners slowly go missing one by one, and so Six, or Sybil, is trying to find out what happened to them, and ends up on this quest with like the new king and a couple of his knights and stuff, and it has really beautiful gothic like prose and stuff, and the world is so unique that Rachel Gillig created and stuff that like I love this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. The story of the diviners, it's beautiful and heartbreaking because there's some tragedy in it, and there's a gargoyle side character who, he's really funny, but also he has like these really prolific like moments where he'll have really good lines and stuff, and just the story is really touching, and I'm really looking forward to when book 2 comes out. I really recommend this, and if you're looking for like a more gothic, like, it is a little bit of romantasy because there's some romance in it, but definitely if you're looking for a more gothic fantasy, highly recommend this. After that, I read Fever Dream by Elsie Silver. I gave this a 4.75 stars. It is about Emmett Bush, who is the rival of Rhett and Theo from the Chestnut Springs series, and then the female main character is Julia Silva, Theo's little sister, and there's elements of bull riding and like the small town that are very familiar in Elsie Silver books. But she adds a new twist to it by it's being like a dating romance TV show that Emmett's starring in, and Julia is working on the crew and stuff. And it's really interesting, and it reminded me a lot of Chestnut Springs, kind of more than the Rose Hill Ranch, or is it just Rose Hill series did. The audiobook to this is duet or dual narrated, and it's really good because you get the female narrator reading her parts in like the male when the male chapters are going and stuff, and it's really good. And I highly recommend listening to the audiobook as well as reading this. It does feel like more of a return to form, closer to the Chestnut Springs series than I think the Rose Hill series did, which I did like the Rose Hill series, but I just think this one was a little better. After that, I picked up Fury Bound by Sable Sorensen. This is the sequel to Direbound, which Direbound is about Marin, whose little sister is kidnapped by Siphons, who are basically vampires, and her kingdom has been at war with the Siphons for like 500 years or something. And there are this group of soldiers called the Bonded that have connections with direwolves and stuff, and so she ends up connected to a direwolf, and she ends up at the academy where she has to learn how to wand properly and train with her direwolf, and that's all in the first book. This one takes place literally seconds after Direbound finished. So if you haven't read Direbound recently, I would like reread the end at least, just so you like remember what happened. But it's really good. It expands the world really well, and you get a lot more details about the Siphons and the world of Direbound. You also get a new point of view in this book, so you don't just get Marin's point of view, but someone else, and it's really interesting. And I haven't read Force Wings, so I can't say if it's a good, if it's necessarily does follow kind of the same plot, but either way, I think it's worth reading because it is a unique story. See, I can't say a lot because it is the sequel, but it's really good, and it definitely holds up to how good Direbound was. The last book I read, which was actually ironically on June 30th, was Winter in Paradise by Ellen Hildebrand. This was my first Ellen Hildebrand book, and I rated it 3.5 stars. It's about Irene Steele, who has an idyllic life with like her 2 sons and her husband, who like does like really big romantic gestures for her. But it's New Year's Day, and she gets a phone call that her husband died in the tropics on the Caribbean island of St. John, and that he was in like a helicopter crash with a local woman. And so you're getting the point of view of his family and the local woman who he was having an affair with, her family's point of view. And they're trying to figure out like what happened, and like there's all this little family drama and stuff, and like so I'm like trying to figure, like his family is trying to figure out well, how did he have this villa on the island, and how does he know these people, like how did he have this whole double life that they didn't know about and stuff. And so there's a lot of talk of grief, and there's family drama, and it's a really fun setting with the island, because you get details of like boat tours and like the bars and different things, and it's very fun. I think it's a good palate cleanser, and the mystery takes on another element at the very end of the book, so that like it makes you really want to pick up book 2. And I recommend this as like you need a nice change of pace if you're reading a lot of kind of heavier like fantasies and stuff, like because this is heavy with like the grief stuff, but it's kind of like a slower change pace and stuff, where it's less high stakes and stuff, and there's like kind of more like funny moments where there's like fishing and stuff, that it can be lighthearted at times besides dealing with the grief. So those were all 6 books I read in June, and I think the reading month was pretty good. Overall, I didn't have a 5-star, but I had a 4.75 and a couple 4.5 stars. So I think overall it was a very good month. And I look forward to what I'm going to get to in July. So feel free to like and subscribe and do all that other YouTube stuff. And I'll see you next time. Bye.